Welcome to Monday, October 17th, 2022. This Day Weather Podcast is being brought to you by Cowboy State Daily, Wyoming's news authority. They have more original Wyoming news content than anybody else. Check them out at cowboystatedaily.com. As we roll through this week, is it going to be another really nice week, or do we have big changes coming? The answer to both questions is both. But it's best to just tell you that the next 5 days will just be beautiful. I mean, really nice. For the middle of October, the weather's going to be great through Friday with lots of sun, clear, cool, crisp nights, a little frost on the pumpkin with these longer nights and dry air. You're just going to get those nights that are going to be cooler, but the daytime conditions are just going to be great. It has been a remarkably nice run this fall, but a major change is likely by this weekend. Our confidence is pretty high. We have good model agreement. The pattern that we talked about last week where we had that strong jet stream in the North Pacific that would initiate the change, that looks like it's coming together, but it's going to wait till the weekend before it gets here. Want to give a heads up to hunters and travelers. Pay attention to this, especially when you have these really nice long stretches of weather. You can let your guard down, but this is going to be an impactful weather change throughout the entire Intermountain West, the Northern and Central Rockies. It's going to impact the Pacific Northwest as well. And this is one of these situations where the weather does a 180. You have beautiful blue skies at hunting camp one day, and then lots of snow and much colder conditions the next. So hunters and travelers, pay attention by this weekend and in the next week. If you haven't yet, it's a good time to get the irrigation systems taken care of. You've got 5 days to do that before things freeze hard enough where you're going to have problems later on. Fall colors are just amazing. It's interesting. Now we're shifting to the colors which have peaked in the high country in most areas and now into the cities. And since we haven't had that big snowstorm or that big prolonged windstorm, these beautiful leaves are staying on the trees across the lower elevations and in the towns and cities across the West. Just a remarkable color season that we've had so far this year, all across the Rockies and the Western High Plains. Here's a shot out of Laramie, and I'll tell you, the cottonwoods in Albany County this weekend were absolutely stunning. If you get a chance, take Highway 230 from Laramie to Woods Landing to see those cottonwoods. Just absolutely fantastic. Then more beautiful colors in Cheyenne, around town. And again, without a storm or a lot of wind, we've been able to maintain those. And then here's a reminder, the snow on Bald Mountain there. You can see up there in the Bighorn Mountains, those clouds kind of look colder, don't they? Well, we're going to start to see more of those later on. Beautiful day to move cows. It's been great weather. Whether it's harvest operations or doing operations like this, just really great opportunities to get out. Do so over the next 4 to 5 days before we start to see this weather pattern change. And we certainly are going to see quite the change, and it's really going to start late Saturday night into Sunday. Today's satellite photo shows a swirl of clouds here with a low centered over Michigan. So you can kind of see the swirl here, that big low, and that's driving in cold air out of Canada. And there are freeze warnings in effect deep into the south areas of the United States. And you can see it here on the 500 millibar chart. Look at that big dip. Look at that intense low over Michigan. So cold air is coming right up north of Hudson Bay, right into the eastern part of the United States. Look at this temperature anomaly. This is by Wednesday morning. Look at the anomaly getting all the way down to Miami, deep into the Gulf Coast. A big wave of cold, way off of average for those areas there across the central and eastern parts of the United States. And now you can see western United States and western Canada in the red there. So this is why we're just going to continue to have this great weather. Here's the forecasted jet stream winds by Thursday night. And you can see the red here. You can see a very intense jet stream winds. You see this shading of gray right here? So if you look at those jet stream winds, yikes, those are powerful. And that's what's going to initiate the whole weather pattern change across the northern hemisphere. So by Saturday night into Sunday morning, we have a strong frontal system and trough. This first wave doesn't look like it's going to be a four corners low, but rather, which is really typical for the first cold front in October, it tends to be just like this, where it comes through as a frontal system and a trough, but doesn't spin up a low. Not yet. I think that's going to be the second system back here, and then another system back up here later on. But notice, when a ridge goes there, we go to the fridge. So here comes the cold. It really begins to push into the Pacific Northwest for Washington, Oregon, and Idaho as we get into Friday night and Saturday. Then into Montana, Wyoming, Utah, the Northern Great Basin as we get on into the day on Sunday. And there it is. By Sunday evening, that trough is swinging through and is getting to the Front Range and heading into the Northern Plains. And then here's the next troublemaker right here coming in behind it. And that's going to drive that cold air in under that northwest wind flow. This is by Wednesday, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. And we have this broad trough, big one, over the western United States. So the trajectory of the air masses coming into the West Coast, the trajectory of the air masses coming into the Northern Rockies are all coming in out of the Northwest Territories in Alaska, pumping in that colder weather, while a big warm-up will happen in the eastern parts of the United States. Look at the temperature anomaly. This is by next Wednesday. So you see how it's a reverse? It is completely flipped. Warm goes into the central and east, and the cold moves into the west. Look at those temperatures in California. Whoo, boy. This is the current snow and ice situation across our part of the hemisphere. The blue shows where there's snow on the ground, enough to make a difference, and then the orange there shows where there's ice cover. Look what happens when we go out 10 days. So there is going to be significant accumulation of new snowfall in this part of the nation right here, which is a departure from where it is right now. Not very much to a big change. And that leads to other changes later on once you pile up that snow cover. So a lot of moving parts. We'll give you more detail as we get closer. In the meantime, enjoy the next 5 days.